Okay guys, here's your warm-up. This is section 5.5. It says graph y plus 2 is equal to negative, parentheses, x minus 5, close parenthesis. Go ahead and put me on pause and take a couple minutes and graph this. If you have graph paper, that would make life a lot easier for you. All right, let's go ahead and look how we graph this. If you notice, this equation that they gave us is in point slope form, which actually at times can be much handier than the one that you're probably most comfortable with, which is slope intercept form. The point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Be careful with the minus sign. These are minus in the point slope form. So there's two things you should be able to identify. One, which is the slope. That's right here, which is this number right there, and it happens to be a negative imaginary 1. And I'm going to go ahead and put a 1 under that. And then the point they're talking about in this particular equation, which is your x comma your y, is the x1 comma y1. And remember, it has to be minus, so that's the 5 comma, now here's the problem. You see that plus 2? That must have meant that when it was minus, they had to have put in a negative 2 for the negative times the negative to get back to the positive. So your x1 is 5, however your y1 is negative 2. Now I have enough information to go ahead and graph it. So you're going to start and plot the point 5, negative 2. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then negative 2 would be right here. And then work your slope. Don't forget, slope is the change in y over the change in x, rise over run. So negative 1 means I'm going to go down 1, positive 1 to the right, down to the right, down to the right, which is the same thing as going up to the left because it's equal to positive 1 over a negative 1. So plot a few points, enough where you can actually now connect it with a line. Don't forget to put arrows on the ends of your line, and don't forget to label it with the original equation. Whoops. And that just put arrows in there. My bad. So there you have it. Let's go ahead and start section 5-5. Standard form, 5-5. Standard form is the third way you're going to learn how to write a linear equation. The first way you wrote it was slope intercept form, which was the y equals mx plus b. The second way you did it was point slope form, which was the y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. The third way you're going to do it is called standard form. Standard form, like seen below, is where it says ax plus by is equal to c. Excuse me. Where a and b and c are real numbers and a and b are not both 0. Typically they like you to have them both positive. Not always possible, so if one of them has to be a negative, make sure that it's the y value and keep your ax value positive. Finding the x and y intercepts. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis. We know that as the b, but that's only with slope-intercept form, the y equals mx plus b. Anywhere else, they don't call that the y-intercept. You can also substitute 0 in for y, or excuse me, in for x, and that will find the y-intercept. Or you could substitute 0 in for y, and that would find the x-intercept. So let's go ahead and do this, because if you can find the x-intercept and the y-intercept, you've actually found 2 points on your graph, which will allow you to graph it without building a table, finding the m, finding the b, or any of those other things. So let's go ahead and find the x-intercept first, which is going to be putting 0 in for y, so it's going to be something comma 0. I'm going to substitute 0 in for y, and that's going to give me, I'm going to solve for x, 4 times 0 is 0, and 3x plus 0 is 0, so just drop down my 24, divide both sides by 3, and I get x is equal to 8. So that means that my x-intercept is 8 comma 0. My y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis, it's going to be 0 at x, and then I got to figure out what my y is. So we're going to substitute 0 in for x back into the same equation and solve for y. So 3 times 0 is 0, and 0 plus 4y is 4y. Divide both sides by 4. Remember, if I'm going too fast for you, just put me on pause or have me repeat it. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that means my y-intercept is at the point 0 comma 6. That's where it crosses the y-axis. So I could actually go ahead and graph these 2 points on the x and y axes and then connect them with a line, and that would be the equation of the line that they gave me originally in standard form. ax plus by equals c. A is 3, b is 4, and the c is the 24. This one says graph the equation using the x and y intercepts. Alright, so it's a different one. Notice it's in standard form. Let's first find the x-intercept. Sometimes they'll tell you to graph it by finding the x, y intercepts. Sometimes they don't tell you. They just tell you to graph it, and they don't tell you which way to do it. And doing it by the x, y intercepts sometimes is easier to do it that way. So we're going to go ahead and put 0 in for my y, and we're going to solve for x. 2 times 0 is 0, and x minus 0 is equal to negative 2. So negative 2 comma 0 is my x-intercept, which would be right there. Gotta remember to label everything, otherwise I will lose points. Then, finding my y-intercept, that's where x is 0. So go ahead and substitute 0 in for x and solve for y. So we get negative 2y is equal to negative 2. Divide both sides by negative 2. That's going to give me y is equal to 1. So 0 comma 1 is my y-intercept. Now I can go ahead and connect it with a line. Put arrows on the end, and don't forget to label it with the original equation they gave you. In this case, it's in standard form. And that's graphing a line in standard form, and it doesn't matter what form it's in. If they gave it to you in any form, any of the 3 that you've learned now, slope, intercept, point, slope, or standard form, it doesn't matter, no matter which one they give you, or if there isn't a particular order to it, it's just all scrambled up, you still can do the x and y intercepts and plot those points and connect it to find the equation of the line on a graph. Horizontal and vertical lines. These are the ones that kids find very easy when they first do them, and then when they get back to a test or a quiz, they mess these up a lot, because I think it's because they're so simple they read into it. These are, if you have a line or an equation that has only an x in it, like this, or only a y in it, like this, that means it's going to end up being a horizontal or a vertical line. If it says x equals 5, that means that you have to plot 5, the point 5, on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right there. So it's got to go through the x-axis, which means that this is going to be a vertical line. And the reason why is because every point on that line that I just graphed, no matter what point you pick on it, I don't care how far above or below you go on that line, every single one of them, x is always 5. This one's 5, 0, this is 5, 2. This one down here, say, would be 5, -3. So they're always x is equal to 5. The only thing that changes are the y's. When you look at y equals -3, that means that you have to plot your first point at -3 on the y-axis, which is right here. That means that no matter what point you look at on this line, y always has to be -3. So that's going to actually give us a horizontal line. Whoops, I'm a little off. So no matter what point I look at on this line, y is always -3. It's the x coordinates that actually change on that one. So those are horizontal and vertical lines. When you only have one variable, an x or a y, not both, you're going to end up with a vertical or a horizontal line on your graph. A media download store sells songs for $1 each and movies for $12 each. We're talking about a word problem here. So let's let x equal the number of songs, and let's do y. I'm going to use x and y because of our graph, our xy axes, and y can be the number of movies. They sell, songs are $1 each. Let's identify the important information. And movies are $12 each. We have $60 to spend, and they want me to write an equation and graph it that describes the items that you can purchase, and then we'll do the second question at the end after. So we're talking about $1 times every song plus $12 times every movie, and altogether I only have $60. So that would be my equation right here. Okay, if they ask me to graph it, this is your y-axis, this is your x-axis. It's kind of hard to see. Make sure you have your arrows on it. Notice that I'm only showing the first quadrant, and that's because it would be crazy or not correct to talk about selling or downloading negative songs or negative movies. So we would never go on the negative x-axis or the negative y-axis. Now we can use the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts to actually figure out this graph. So the x-intercept is going to be something, 0. Let's go ahead and substitute in 0 for my y. The 1x, I don't need the 1, plus 12 times 0 equals 60. So that x equals 60. Be careful when you graph this. I'm going to go up by tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. So whoops, I went the wrong way on this, didn't I? Okay, let me erase this, guys, sorry. Because this is my x-intercept, I was doing y-intercept, so let's go tens this way. I'm going to show a couple so that it's identifiable. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, right here. This is 60. So that's my x-intercept. My y-intercept is going to be when x is 0. So substitute 0 in for my x and solve for y. Gives me 12y equals 60. Divide both sides by 12 and you're going to get y is equal to 5. So that means I'm going to go up by 1s here. As long as I'm consistent, I'm okay. And I'm going to plot the point 0, 5, which is right here. Then I'm going to connect it with a line. My line, I want to be careful though. I don't want to put arrows on my line because we're not going to have negative negative downloading songs or movies.